I have been wondering about what sort of person I am, as we might each do. A story is told about a righteous man, a Sadiq, in those sinful cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. He suddenly appeared there in his early 20s, post-university people presumed, both by his looks and his words. His appearance there by the public square, near a large assorted group of people sleeping rough, brought raised eyebrows, dismissive smirks, frustration, and occasional abuse. But mainly people just rushed by him. For he was there trying to explain about what's wrong and about what we might do to change it. He would talk of how so many people have to survive and care for others on so little. He would demand that we change our ways so that this climate be livable for our children. He would speak up against the rampant misogyny of those sinful cities and their insidious racism. Over the years, that young man spoke louder and more urgently, angrily sometimes. He noticed standing there one man who would sometimes glance at him along with those asking for money, looking a little awkward or guilty, almost stopping, but clearly feeling he needed to rush on. The righteous man stuck to his task. He was no longer young, and then he was middle-aged, and then some might have even said he was a little old, and he was still there. One day, another young man, just a little older than the righteous man had been when he first appeared, did stop for him and said, "Even I have now passed you doing this, speaking up and shouting out for days and for months and for years. Nobody's really paying attention, may even laugh at you. Why do you carry on doing this? Why do you do this to yourself?" The old man looked at him and he said, "At first, when I came here all those years ago, I came here because I wanted to change the world. And with time, I've just wanted to make sure that the world doesn't change me." And as we wonder about what sort of person we are, we might think of that story, or we might also think of a categorization and evaluation of 4 types of people that our rabbis list. There is the person who says, "What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours." The evaluation of this person or attitude in Pirkei Avot, in the rabbinic literature, is benonit. What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. This is average. The person who says, "What's mine is yours and what's yours is mine," the verdict, am haaretz, unrealistic. Perhaps it's unrealistic to imagine that one can establish the attitude of another. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is yours. Chassid, by which the Mishnah does not mean a ultra-Orthodox Jew, but this means the attitude of one who builds their world around cares for others, around chesed. And finally, what's mine is mine, what's yours is mine. Definitely, the rabbis agree, this is the attitude of Russia. This is a bad attitude. But there's actually a disagreement about that first attitude that I mentioned. What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. This is the average attitude, the rabbis tell us. Although some say they continue, Zon midat Sodom. This is the attitude of Sodom. Now, this may just be a short line in the text, but it might seem a major disagreement. On one hand, the attitude of each to their own, or their own to each, is benonit, is average. On the other hand, it's apparently indicative of the most destructive, rapacious, cruel location in our tradition, the attitude of Sodom. So which of these attitudes of the four am I? Which are you? And what are the rabbis teaching us with this mixed evaluation of what's mine is mine? We can address this by looking more closely at the attitude and behavior of Lot in the city of Sodom. And it's interesting, in your Devar Torah, Andrew, you said he's maybe brave. In yours, Jemima, you said, could the behavior in that city have been so entirely terrible? And Lot seems to be somewhere in the middle in our biblical evaluations. We have Lot, Abraham's nephew, with such potential, implicitly, constantly compared by the Torah to the great Abraham. Lot is worth saving. He has good intentions. When the townspeople knock on his door, asking him to hand over guests, he refuses, although not that effectively and with a terrible alternative plan. Now, Lot chose to settle in Sodom, seemingly motivated by an understandable desire to earn a good living for himself and his family. The plain is fertile, we're told, and there must be a certain appeal to being settled in the bustle of the city, while your uncle Abraham just continues to wander. When Abraham is told to leave with Lech Lecha, he goes. When Lot is told to leave to save himself, he hesitates with that longest Torah trope in the whole of the Torah. And perhaps he looked at his house or his life or his possessions in those moments and just found himself stuck. When Abraham approaches the eternal with pleases and respectful, Lord, may I ask just one thing? It's to ask if perhaps the people in Sodom and Gomorrah might be saved. It's to stand up for others. Lot in our parsha with the same language. Please, my Lord, please, if I found favor in your eyes, I'm not able myself to escape to the mountains. Please, there's a city nearby to flee to, just there. And it's just a small place. Lot's choices and plight are so sad because they're so reasonable. They're so familiar. He wants to do better and to be better. But just like circumstances mean he can't. He found himself in a world and routine that forces compromises. Well, he did choose that place, but for an understandable reason, to take care of himself and his family. And well, in the end, what could be more practical than looking out for number one? So he increasingly retreats to that small place. What sort of person are you and I? What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. This is the attitude of Lot when it comes down to it. This is the average attitude, the reasonable posture, and this is the attitude of Sodom, the one that leads to corrosive suffering and destruction and self-compromise until you no longer want to look at yourself. The Torah inspires us to walk in Abraham's brave, determined steps, and the Torah carefully worries us that we're probably acting, in fact, exactly like Lot. What sort of people are we? Who will we choose to be? Average blurs into bad. Ordinary is not enough. Just going about your business with good intentions brings me and our world closer to destruction. The habits around us, they shape us unless we thoughtfully and persistently establish our own habits. The purpose of Jewish practice is partly to resist unthinking habits, opting instead for that which is purposeful, giving, reflective. It's our actions in the end that shape and express our souls. Let us each pay attention to our habits and to our souls. Let us each establish our routines around giving, the giving of time and the giving of money, the twin mitzvot of tzedakah and chesed. Tzedakah is regular conscious giving to achieve a juster world and a juster self. Chesed is reaching out to the vulnerable, the lonely, the sick, spending time simply with another person to be with them. We can each know not only that we're generally abstractly committed to these mitzvot, but we can know exactly when we're doing them, and we can build them in so that they shape us, so that we can inculcate what's mine is yours. With what's mine is yours, the me, the I, it grows and it develops, it expands. We broaden ourselves. We don't, like that Sadiq in the story, need to give up on changing the world. And we do need to insist on shaping ourselves. The tactics of that righteous man, that Sadiq in Sodom and Gomorrah, they're not to be entirely emulated. Perhaps if we all try to be a chassid, to live dedicated to kindness, more than trying to be righteous, we might make more of a difference. In that story, though, the person that I'm most worried that I am, that I act like, is that person rushing, wanting to stop, reflect and act, wanting to give, but in the end, rushing with everyone else. Maybe that person was lost. Let it not be you and me. I'm not saying we should be a Sadiq, entirely righteous, but be a chassid. Orient your daily life around others. Shabbat shalom.